So this past week, a good friend of mine, Kelly Rindlisbacher, passed away after struggling with the COVID-19 virus. Kelly and I served together in a bishopric. He was a bishop and I was a counselor to him. And he taught me a lot of good things during that time, during the time that we worked together. But there's one thing that has always stuck out in my mind, one lesson that he taught me that I just want to record here. The setting was that we were counseling with a member of the ward who was intentionally not following one of the guidelines of the church, and those actions had been having a negative impact on the youth of the ward, because they saw that example and figured it was okay for them to blur the lines as well, and it was okay for them to go ahead and pick and choose which church council they would follow and which they wouldn't. And so as a bishopric, we sat down with this member, and Bishop Rindlisbacher explained the effect it was having on the youth, and the response that was given was, "But Bishop, it's not that big a deal." And as I sat there and thought about that, I thought, a lot of people will use that as an excuse all the time for choosing not to follow things, choosing not to do things, it's not that big a deal. Going 5 miles an hour over the speed limit, it's not that big a deal, or things like that. And so after receiving that response, Bishop Rindlisbacher then looked at this member again and said, but it is having this impact upon the youth, and so we need to make that change, and I'm asking you to be more obedient so that you have a better influence on the youth. And again, the response came, "It's not that big a deal." And so the bishop explained again that, you know what, I need you to do this, or we're going to have to release you from your calling in working with the youth. And again, almost in exasperation, the response came, "But Bishop, it's not that big of a deal." And I love the response that Bishop Rindlisbacher gave this member, because Bishop Rindlisbacher leaned forward on his desk and he said, "I know it's not a big deal, so why not choose to obey?" And that response, the way it took a different angle, a different look at that idea of it not being a big deal. Yeah, it's not a big deal, so why not choose to obey? As we discussed it there in that meeting, we came up with the idea of, if it's not a big deal, if it's an easy thing to do, then why not do it? Claim the blessings. Claim the blessings that come from that obedience, particularly when it's not a big deal. As I've thought about it in later years, I've thought it's kind of like the story of Naaman, the captain of the Syrian guard in the Old Testament, who had leprosy. And when he went to be healed by Elisha the prophet, he was wanting a big deal. He was wanting something big. And he almost walked away from doing the easy thing, except one of his soldiers, someone in his command and in his charge, called him on it and said, basically, yeah, it's not that big a deal, so why not do it? I found myself reflecting on that many times in my own life, and reflecting on the things that I need to do, and not let the little things slide, but go ahead and do the little things. Do those things that aren't that big of a deal. Because as I do those little things that aren't that big of a deal, drop by drop, my bucket fills up. And those little things add up to be big things. It's similar to what it says in Alma, that by small and simple things are great things brought to pass. I appreciate that lesson that I learned from Bishop Rindlisbacher.